this is a really nice amount of food. Guten Yardening, everybody! Well, it's mid-September here in Zone 5, Wisconsin, and the focus of today's video is on the garden that's right behind me, because it's our compost bin garden, a garden where we've expanded and tried a lot of varieties of vegetables growing right in our compost bins, and we've been seeing some fantastic success. Now, this is year-over-year success because we started this process about 3 years ago when we accidentally grew some butternut squash from some seeds we had deposited in our compost bin, and we got amazing results. The year after that, we decided to be intentional about our planting, and we had some fantastic results with our peppers, some of our other squash, etc. And this year, we went even farther. Now, I did a video a couple of months ago where we talked about the setup for this, and we called this a kind of urban hugelkulture gardening. And in that setup, I put multiple layers of compost and other ingredients from our yard, like our grass clippings, etc., into these bins to prepare them for this planting. And I said at the time that typically what happens when we plant in our compost bins, we get longer and better production than anywhere else in our garden. Today, I'm going to show you that that is definitely the case, and I'm going to show you one of our vegetables that's not only long-lasting and still producing fruit, but it's providing some giants as well. Now, before we get into the main content, I'd ask if you haven't already done so, go ahead, hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed, well, welcome to our community. We'd love to have you as a member. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, as I mentioned a couple seconds ago, we were intentional in our planting both last year and this year. And this year we did want to try a little bit more of a variety than we did last year. And I think what we've noticed is that really there aren't a lot of limitations as to what can be grown in here. We've grown everything from watermelon in here now all the way over to root crops like our sweet potatoes. Now, we haven't done that sweet potato harvest as they're not ready yet, but they're still in there growing, and they seem to be developing just fine. And one of the things that's making this so special for us is just how healthy all of these vegetables look even now. I'm going to repeat that. We're in mid-September, Zone 5. This is some of our celery that we have in here. I'll head down in here and pull out a piece for you. This is something that we harvest typically stem by stem because we leave it in there, we harvest as we go, and it keeps developing. And take a look at this. This is wonderful, sturdy, crunchy celery, and there's so much more of it in here still growing. And right beside that celery, we have a couple of pepper plants underneath here. You see this one growing right here. Now, it may not look like much, but we've actually been harvesting off of these pepper plants for quite a while now. They've been ripening up nicely. I would say we've probably had 15 or 20 peppers off of here easily. There's more up here, and we've still got, there's a third one right up here. We've still got flowers coming in. Now, the one plant that I would say has died back in here is actually our melon, but we've already taken multiple fruits off this melon, and the plant has given us, I think, everything that it was going to give us anyway. Now, if you look at this closely from here over, this is one bin, and you can see just how packed with vegetables this bin is. And so one thing we'll have to take into consideration in the future, I think, is making sure that it doesn't get too crowded in here. On this side, in other compost bins, we have some cantaloupe growing in here. This one's actually getting to a pretty nice size. Still pretty green, but it's getting there. So cantaloupe still developing this late in Zone 5. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, our sweet potatoes in here. Now, these were planted not as slips, but as seedling transplants. But right behind me, we have some zucchini. Now, this zucchini has been growing all season long. Now, for the rest of our summer squash, we've actually had to go through and replace most of those plants. I mean, they produce for a while, the production stops, there's disease with the squash vine borer. Recently, we've had a couple instances where we've had some powdery mildew. So that all happens, and then we have to get rid of them, and fortunately we've started new squash plants, and so we can still keep that going throughout the season. But this zucchini, well, this zucchini has been producing from the beginning of the season, and we really have to contribute that to the fact that it's growing in our compost bins. And it's not just producing zucchini, it's producing them so fast that if we don't get out here in a timely manner, we end up with gigantic zucchini. Now these are not the zucchini that I'm talking about in terms of size, but one of the things that's really cool about growing zucchini like this on a plant that's producing so well is you'll get these that are a good size. I mean, this is still a little bit big for most people, I think, but this is a really nice size right here. A good size that you can harvest early on. You have a tender, really nice summer squash that's fantastic in just about any dish. And even these that are a little bit longer, still a really nice size. And when I say it's still producing, I mean it still has plenty of life left in it. Multiple baby zucchini ready to come in and take the place of the ones that I'm about to harvest. And I think the hardest thing about harvesting these zucchini is making sure that you don't kill the rest of the plant along with it, because they kind of get tucked in there. This is a couple days servings for our family size. And this one, well, this is perfect for steaming. It's going to be really, again, nice, soft, and tender. Perfect for everyday consumption. Perfect for the food that we want to put into our meals right now. Well, at the same time, we've got zucchini like this giant growing right here. So I'm going to put my hand up here for perspective, and I am going to cut this one off really quickly here. But this is a ton of food right here. Now, this is not something that we would just steam and eat as a meal right away. Instead, this is something that we would freeze, or we would make zoodles out of, or we would put in some kind of zucchini bread. But the nice thing about something this size is that it is actually still quite good to eat. There would be no point in keeping something around this long if it wasn't. The fact that something like this is still good to eat as long as you prepare it correctly, in my opinion, that's a good way to allow some of this to happen, because what you're doing is you're increasing the volume of food that you're able to get, keep, freeze, whatever it looks like that you do to preserve that food. You're able to do more of it when you have a few like this. And the other one I want to show you is right behind this giant leaf. It's so dark back in here that I almost didn't see this the first time I came looking. Do you see it yet? Take a look at this zucchini. The question I have to ask is, how far down here does it go, and how much could this one possibly weigh? So let's get this one cut off. Wow, that is heavy. And let's see what this massive zucchini looks like. Take a look at the size of this. Well, with those four that I just harvested, it kind of looks like I have the cell phone service bars. We go from a really nice average everyday size to a little bit big, and then, well, we've got full service here at the top. Let's get a weight on those top two. You know, I know a lot of people make jokes about zucchini. In fact, in Wisconsin, where I live, I've seen a lot of people say, keep your doors locked at night, because otherwise you'll end up with some zucchini dropped off in your car. But the reality is that even at this massive size, there are still fantastic ways to prepare this. Our zoodles, frozen in chunks that we can then put in soup, in our bread. It's really a pretty versatile vegetable, and believe me, we've tried this. We've eaten this at this size, and it's still very tasty. So I think this actually speaks to a couple of things. One, there is some value for sure in growing some of these mega vegetables, and actually we have one that we haven't shown you at all, and we're saving that video for a little bit longer down the road, because we're going to see how big we can get this vegetable. So you got to stay tuned. We're really excited for this one. And two, there is some absolute value in growing in your compost, in that kind of urbanized hugelkulture system. If you haven't seen that video, we encourage you to go back and check it out, because I got to tell you, multiple years now, we've had wonderful results, and the results are still going. Our plant longevity is there. We're getting more production. We're getting what appears to be perhaps even more disease resistant, because that plant has not succumbed to any of our insects or anything like that. And we're pretty confident that it's going to keep producing for us for weeks ahead, which is very different from all of our others. We are excited to get these preserved and ready to go for winter. We hope you enjoyed this video, found some inspiration. If you enjoy your summer squash and let them get a little bit bigger and have a good recipe for us to use it in, we would love to hear that as well. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.